Hey, welcome back to the Bar Chord Masterclass. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at memorizing the notes on the low E string. But before we get into that, if you're having trouble with anything we've gone over so far, go to guitarfam.com and schedule a one-on-one private lesson with me. The first one is complimentary, so there's no risk. We can just help whatever issue you're having and get you past that. So let's get right into this. One of the most freeing things you can do on the guitar is memorize the names of the notes on the entire guitar neck. Unfortunately, that is also one of the most boring and tedious things that you are going to have to do as a guitar player, or that you should do as a guitar player. And we're going to take care of that for you throughout the Bar Chord Masterclass, starting again with the low E string, because that's the one that's important for you to know in order to move the E major bar chord shape around that we just learned over the past few lessons. Most guitar players only ever get to the E and A strings because of the way your power chords and bar chords work, but throughout this entire course, we are going to cover all the notes on the entire guitar neck. I snuck that one in as kind of a bonus because I thought it was that important for you.
First off, we need to make sure that you know what a root note is. Now, the root note is what the bar chord is based on. It's its foundation. For example, if we have an E chord, then E would be the root note. And in this example, we have 3 root notes. So it would be here on the 6th string, the 2nd fret of the D string, and then the high E string. Now, how does this apply to bar chords? Well, as I mentioned, with the E shape, the E chord, your root note is on the low E string. So if we were to slide this up to create a G chord on the 3rd fret, we're sliding our bar up to the 3rd fret, our root note is now found on the 3rd fret of that low E string. And so that's where it gets its note. This is a G note, and so when we put the rest of the chord on, we're making a G chord.
Right, and this is kind of, I don't want to say it's a trap that a lot of guitar players fall into, but it's a trap that a lot of guitar players fall into. It's that they use just the low E string as a reference point for their bar chords, right? Because you're moving this open E up to a G and then putting your shape in place. But there's those other 2 root notes that you mentioned that are in that shape, the black filled in notes are also roots in that. Check out this chord diagram of the E bar chord shape, but in a G location. That root note on the high E string is also a reference point that you can think about, and this one on the 5th fret now of the D string is also a reference point for you. So there are a couple more kind of review things that I want to go over from the Guitar Foundations course here before we get into memorizing notes on the E string, just to make it easier for you. The first one is the idea of whole steps and half steps. For our purposes in this lesson, a whole step is just going to be when you put your finger anywhere on the fretboard. It can be open string, it can be the 3rd fret of the E string. A whole step will be when you skip a fret and move 2 frets away. And you can do that up, or you can do it down backwards. Now, a half step is when you only move 1 fret in either direction. So if you go to that G on the 3rd fret and you go up only 1/2 step, or 1 fret, that's going to be a half step. The same thing if you go to that G and go down 1 fret, that's going to be a half step down. So just keep the difference between a whole step and a half step in mind as we go forward.
The next little tidbit of review is the natural musical alphabet. And all that is, it's real simple, it's just the first 7 letters of the alphabet. So you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once you hit G, you're going to circle back to A and start again.
The last little bit of review is just something called the B, C, and E, F rule. And this is hypercritical for finding notes on the guitar fretboard. The B, C, and E, F rule states that any 2 adjacent natural notes in the natural musical alphabet have a whole step between them unless those 2 notes are B and C or E and F. I know that's really complicated and long, but listen to it again. The B, C, and E, F rule states that any 2 adjacent notes in the natural musical alphabet have a whole step between them unless they're B and C or E and F. B and C and E and F only have a half step between them. So that's just something you're going to have to memorize and go over a bunch until you get it ingrained. So if you have an E or an F, like the open E, an F is going to be just a half step away because the EF BC rule states that B and C and E and F just have a half step or 1 fret between them. If you have an F to a G, those are 2 other adjacent notes in the natural musical alphabet that aren't E and F or B and C, so that's going to be a whole step. Same thing with G to A, 2 adjacent notes, not B and C or E and F. So they're going to have the whole step between them.
So let's go over the natural notes on the low E string. And the natural notes are those that don't have sharps or flats.
And sharps look like this, and flats look like this. And you won't see either of those for the next little while as we go work on just the natural notes. So the open E string, E natural, and then if you remember the E and F, B, C, and E, F rule says that, hey, this is an E, and the next note's an F because you just go in alphabetical order, so that has to be a half step. So just the very next fret. So grab your guitar and go over these with me. It's going to take a while to get these ingrained in your brain, but the more often you do it, the easier it'll get for you. So from an F, what's next in the natural musical alphabet?
G.
G, right. So and that's not B or C or E and F, so there's a whole step. So we go up to the 3rd fret for our G. And next is an A. It's not, from G to A is not B or C or E or F, so from G, whole step to an A. Okay? Now, do you see how we went back around from the tail end of the natural musical alphabet, G, all the way back around to the beginning, from G to A? Okay, just something to note there. So from A, what's next? A B, right? It's not B and C or E and F, so we have a whole step. So from the 5th fret to the 7th fret. Now, red alert, what note are we on?
B.
B, right? So B, the next note is C, that's B and C. That tells us that we're going to have a half step here. So from B to C, just one half step from the 7th fret up to the 8th fret. And then C, what's next? D, right? So from C to D is going to be a whole step because it's not B or C or E or F. And then from D, what's next in the alphabet? D, E. And that's not B or C or E or F. So we're going to have an E note on the 12th fret. And that is the octave, one octave up. We had a low E down here open. And then on the 12th fret is one octave up. Same exact note.
Here are a couple keys to start memorizing the natural notes on the low E string quickly. So the first tip is to practice consistently, often, just for a few minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like nothing, you don't have to do it for hours, but just a couple minutes a day reviewing.
Yeah, this is the kind of practice where you can only do 3 to 5 minutes before you just start wanting to gouge your ears or knives out. Like, this is so boring, you know.
Yeah, so do yourself a favor, just practice for a couple minutes and that's it. And then you can call it a day with that. And then after that, you can start moving, ascending and descending on the strings. So open E you start with the E, and then you have F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And then after that, you're going to go back down the fretboard to make sure that you have it memorized.
Right, and one good little practice point here is to just practice saying the natural musical alphabet backwards, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. G, F, E, D, C, B, A. And that will help you in so many musical situations that you would be surprised. As a matter of fact, let's do that right now. Let's go back up, and then we'll go back down as well. And here's another tip, say the note names out loud as you do this. That's going to reinforce things and help you learn things way faster. So E, F on the 1st fret, G on the 3rd fret, A on the 5th fret, B, 7, C, 8, D, 10, E, 12. And you can keep going, but it just repeats from there. So let's go back down the other way. E, D on the 10, C on the 8, B and C, remember half step, on the 7th, A on the 5th, G on the 3rd, F on the 1st fret, and then open E. And this is exactly how you want to practice this. Up and down, natural notes, saying the note names out loud.
The real challenge of memorizing the notes on the guitar, really on any string, is when you get into sharps and flats. Now, now it's critical that you understand the B, C, and E, F rule before proceeding. And if you feel confident, if you feel like you have that down, then you're good to go. Now let's look at the 2nd fret of the low E string. So this note here, it can be called F sharp or G flat. Now, whenever we have a note that has two names like that, it's called an enharmonic note.
So let's go through the same process up and down the fretboard, putting in the sharp and flat notes, those enharmonic notes. And you don't have to be great at this for this lesson. I just want to introduce you to the idea and have you work on this as you go. You do need to have the natural notes down pretty well before you go on to the next lesson, but these sharp and flat notes usually take a little bit longer. So the open E, F on the 1st fret, now an F sharp, since we have a whole step between F and G, there's that middle note, the second fret, that can either be an F sharp or a G flat, right? So after that, G, third fret. Now this note can either be a G sharp, or since there's a whole step between G and A, because of our B, C, and E, F rule, it can also be called an A flat. And then the A on the 5th fret, 6th fret can be an A sharp or a B flat. Then we get to the B on the 7th fret. B, C, E, F rule dictates that the next fret, the 8th fret, is a C, because there's only a half step between B and C. Then next we have a C sharp, or it can be called a D flat. 10th fret is a D. And then next we can either have a D sharp or an E flat, and then we're all the way up to an E. And the same thing applies here. Say the note names out loud and go forwards or up and down too. So E, E flat or D sharp, D, D flat or C sharp, C, B, this can be a B flat or an A sharp, 5th fret is an A, 4th fret is an A flat or G sharp, G on the 3rd fret, this can be a G flat or an F sharp, F on the 1st fret, and then an E. And that's exactly how you want to practice this one.
Another tactic to commit these notes to memory is what we like to call playing leapfrog. And so you'll start, let's say we'll start with E for now. So then you're going to skip the F. We're doing this with the natural notes first, not sharps and flats.
Right. That brings up a really good point. When you're doing this, take it one tiny little step at a time, because it's going to feel overwhelming. It's going to feel like a lot of information. So natural notes, then sharps and flats in there with it, and then go up and back down, and then like Chelsea said, then start playing leapfrog.
Yeah. So leapfrog with the natural notes. We'll start with E, open E. Now we're going to skip the F and go up to a G.
Right.
Now we're going to go backtrack to the F, and then we'll skip the G and go up to an A. Now we'll go back to G, and then we'll skip the A and go up to a B. Now we'll go back down to an A. Now remember the B, C, and E, F rule. So there's no sharp or flat between B and C. So when I skip up, I'm just going up 3 frets instead of 4. So going from an A to a C. Then I'll go back down to a B. And then I'll go up to a D. And remember that there's no sharp or flat between B and C, so it's still, again, 3 frets up. Now I'll go back down to a C. And then I'm going to skip D and go to an E.
And this is really going to let you know how well or not so well you know those natural notes. You can do the same thing, like the next level, the ultimate level, I would say, for this lesson is to just skip every other note, including your sharps and flats. So you can go E, F sharp or G flat, F, G, F sharp, G sharp, G, A flat, B flat, A, B, B flat, C, B, C sharp, C, D, D flat, E flat, D, E. And you notice I was kind of mixing up the sharps and flats. You can do that. You can call by both, like F sharp or G flat. Or you can just pick one. You can go sharps at one time, and then you can go flats the other time. Then you can work your way back down. So E, D, E flat, C sharp, D, C, C sharp, B. And I'm kind of blazing through this because I don't expect you to have this down or be able to do it right now if you're new to this. This is just an idea that you're going to want to incorporate down the road when you get the basics of the natural notes and then the sharps and flats learned just by themselves, up and down, and then with the leapfrog thing too.
So why are we bothering to do this? It's because the E bar chord shape gets its root note or its name from the low E string. And so when you're able to move it around, you can literally play any major chord that you want to play.
Right. So if you've been working on memorizing the notes on the low E string and you know that this is a C, that is all you have to do is put your bar wherever that note is in the low E string, and then put the rest of your shape in place, and you're playing that chord with that name. So I'm playing the C major chord using the E shape. And this allows you to play kind of treble chords or oddball chords that you're going to need to play songs that you love, like an F sharp. There's an F sharp on the 2nd fret. Now I can play an F sharp major, or a B flat. There's a B flat on the 6th fret. And I can play a B flat now. So what you want to do is, and we'll get to this in the assignments in a minute, but just move, instead of just thinking about one note as you're moving up and down the fretboard, right? Take as a practice point and move your bar chord shape up and down the fretboard while thinking about what note you're playing with your index finger. And this is going to be like pulling double duty. You're going to be memorizing the names of the notes on the low E string, and you're going to be working on your strength and technique with your bar chord. So instead of just doing the natural notes, you can do just the natural bar chord. So E, F, G, A on the 5th fret, B on the 7th fret, C, 8th fret, D on the 10th fret. I'm not going to go any higher than that because I'm on acoustic, but you get the idea. And then you can do the same thing forwards and backwards while saying the note names out loud and moving that bar chord shape around. So try that with this. Put your open E on, and then move up to the next natural note, F, and then put your bar chord shape on, F major chord. Move up to the next natural note, 3rd fret, G. Next natural note, A, 5th fret. 7th fret is a B. And your hand's probably going to get tired pretty quick. C, 8th fret, D, 10th fret. If you're playing electric like Chelsea, you can keep going.
Keep going.
I'm not, so I will go back down. C, B, A, G, F on the 1st fret, and back to D. And you're probably going to notice it's going to be kind of tough at first, but you're going to start seeing these fret numbers in your sleep, and you're going to be like, 3rd fret is a G, look at that, wow. 8th fret is a C, 10th fret is a D, 6th fret is a B flat. And that's when you're going to, the world's going to start to open up with this bar chord shape for you.
Okay, here are your assignments for this lesson. 1, understand half steps and whole steps. 2, know the natural musical alphabet. 3, know and understand the B, C, and E, F rule. 4, memorize the natural notes on the low E string. 5, start memorizing the sharps and flat notes on the low E string. 6, practice moving the E bar chord shape around the guitar.
Okay, hopefully you have a good idea of how to do that. We kind of did all of those assignments during this lesson and gave you an example of how you can do this. And again, it doesn't take long, maybe 3 minutes of working on the notes and another 3 minutes of working on moving that bar chord shape around should be good for this.
So if you have any questions or if you want to, talk about this lesson with fellow students, we did start a thread for the Bar Chord Masterclass in our forum, right, the Guitar Fam forum. So you can go to guitarfam.com, create a complimentary account, and then you'll be able to chat with fellow students.
And in the next lesson, get ready because we're going to show you how to use this bar chord shape to play through an incredibly important chord progression. We'll see you there.